Dudes, welcome to Sense of Style. My name's Stuart. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're talking about signature scents. It's a request video. I don't think people are aware of just the power that scent has over our emotions. I'm going to give you a little story to illustrate. From the age of 4 to 7, I lived in Jamaica. When I was 7, my family moved to Canada, and I did not go back to Jamaica until I was 27. I arrived at the airport with a friend of mine. We got on a bus to go to the resort. We were at the back of the bus. It was empty, and all the windows in the bus were open. We're flying along the highway, and after about 10 minutes, I started to flip out. I didn't know what was going on. I started to get memories, feelings, and emotions that I hadn't felt since I was a small child, and I didn't know why I was getting them. It felt like a drug experience. As it turned out, I figured it out after a while. It was the smell of the island that had locked up a lot of feelings and emotions that I wasn't even aware of until I was in that bus. If we can do something like that to associate who we are with a certain scent, we can have an incredibly powerful impact on other people. Okay, so what are some good examples of signature scents? The first one I'm going to talk about, maybe a little bit of a surprise. It's this, Noir, 1982. I got the idea of this as a signature scent from one of the comments that I had. Some young guy, I think he was 30 or 32. That's young for me. He asked me if this was a blind buy, and it is a blind buy. It's a lovely fragrance, even though it's old school, a little bit old school. It's kind of sweet. But yeah, he asked me if it was blind buy, and then he said that he was thinking of getting 200 milliliters of it. And I thought, okay, well, he's really buying in. But I think, seriously, this would be a really good signature for a younger guy because it's different. You know, if you like it, I know tons of people like this. It's still a very pleasant fragrance. If you like it, I mean, why not? The worst thing you can do with a signature is to smell like everyone else, you know? And you definitely, like, if you're 30 and under, you're not going to smell like everybody else. The only concern with a fragrance like this is you're worried about smelling like their father or their grandfather. If that is a concern, there are tons of old school fragrances that I think you should try. I mean, like, I've got an old school video. A lot of people do. Just look around and see if something it looks interesting and then give it a try. The great thing about old school fragrances for a signature scent is a lot of them are much cheaper than the newer fragrances. So the number 2 fragrance I think would be great as a signature, Pure Intense. Most people watching are going to be collectors, enthusiasts of some kind, and have some, you know, at least 10 or 12 fragrances in their collection and up. Some people have a lot more. And honestly, this is a fragrance where only the hardcore collector will really know about. It's not a fragrance that most people are going to buy in their first 5, 10. Well, in my case, even 20. I think this was somewhere around 25, the 25th fragrance that I bought, because it's somewhat exclusive, it's expensive. You have to really know you're into fragrances. When it comes to fragrances, we're kind of like chefs. You know, chefs know the best cut of meat, the tastiest cut of meat, the foods that are the tastiest and most interesting. And we know that about fragrances. We earned the right to love this fragrance. All that said, like, if you don't love this, that's totally fine. But I do think having a signature that you love is important. You can't just like it. It's something you really need to love, because then you'll wear it more. Now, that does kind of present a little bit of a problem when it comes to if you have a ton of fragrances, and most people watching will have at least 10 or 12. What you need to do is pretty straightforward. Just wear your fragrances around people that you love. Those are the people that you're going to make your mark with. Those are the people that are going to see you more and connect you with a certain fragrance. And you do that best, I think, in wearing in emotional situations, things like Christmas morning, graduations, weddings, summer barbecues, important events. And I don't think you have to wear it that much as long as you're selective. But, you know, once every couple weeks, once every 3 weeks, and they'll figure it out. Okay. Number 3, this is my decant. Sorry, but this is a niche fragrance. It's super expensive. So I have a decant of Black Orchid by Tom Ford. So from my way of thinking, this would be perfect for a really confident person, a confident guy in particular, because even though this has chocolate and truffles and it's a really rich oriental high-end fragrance, it's got a pretty heavy orchid note that is very feminine. And this is marketed to women. A lot of guys wear it though. But if you're a confident guy, what you can do with Black Orchid is create a puzzle for them. You know, it could be a man or a woman, and they're looking at you going, well, that guy seems like, you know, masculine, confident, and yet he smells so feminine. In situations like that, that's when they're going to ask you questions. That's when people are going to be curious about you. And you want that, right? You want people to be interested. I mean, it doesn't always have to be a compliment. It can be a question. It's like, what the hell are you wearing? It opens up a conversation, right? Now, along the same kind of lines, slightly different, another classic all time. This is Terre d'Hermès. This is the Eau de Toilette. 2006, this is like going to be 17 years old. We always think of it as an office classic, and it is, right? It is that vetiver, the woody notes are great in the office, they're pretty clean, and then you've got that burnt orange kind of vibe. It's just classy. It's super classy. So it's also actually a fragrance that you do have to earn. Like, I didn't like it for the first year and a half that I owned it. I thought it was awful. But over time, I learned to like it, and I really do like it now. So it's a very discriminating fragrance. The one problem with it, though, is it is a very sophisticated, minimalist type of smell. So how do you wear it in, you know, other situations? If you want to have a signature, you want to be able to wear it, right? Well, interestingly enough, I had a comment. It was a really cool comment. I really like this one. There was a guy who was at a casual get-together with a bunch of friends, and he was wearing a leather jacket. He specified that. And he was wearing Terre d'Hermès. And he was talking with this woman, and she said to him, you know, you smell mysterious. I mean, I'm thinking, like, that's what you want, right? You want people curious, because people don't tell you you smell mysterious unless they want to know what the mystery is. They want to know a little bit more about you. So that's the beauty of Terre d'Hermès. Even though it is very sophisticated, if you wear it in an alternate situation, it's going to create a puzzle. It's going to create a reason for people to ask you about it. And I mean, like, hey, that's what we like, right? Okay, next fragrance is one that I think is super underrated, especially right now. It didn't used to be. It used to be pretty popular, but it's past its best date. This is Allure Sport Eau Extrême, and the Eau Extrême part is important. What is great about this is that when it first came out, it was super popular, and then it died down because everyone, and they're right, everyone complained about the performance. Now, the performance isn't terrible, but for the price you pay, it's not the greatest. It could be better. So not as many people are wearing this now. It's also 12 years old. So it's good that not a lot of people are wearing it. And I'm going to explain to you why I think this is so great. Let me talk about a little bit about the evolution of this. Allure Sport, without the Eau Extrême, is kind of similar to Versace Poro. It's fresh with a touch of sweetness, a little bit of vanilla, but very fresh. What Jacques Polch did, and he's my favorite perfumer, and I think Chanel's gone to hell, at least on the men's side since he retired. But what he did was he recognized that if he ramped up the tonka bean, the sweetness, the sweet tonka, he could make the sweetness match the freshness. So it was a little bit out of balance. And so this fragrance can give you pretty much everything, and that's rare. You get a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of freshness, and it's evenly balanced. It's just a classic fragrance, and I think it's one that's underrated, and I really like this. Okay, next up is a fragrance that I like for just a friendly guy who likes a lot of people and likes to socialize, an extrovert. It's in a lot of, large groups. And it's this. Pure Excess by Paco Rabanne. I've talked about this one before. I really like this fragrance. It's not super sophisticated, but I don't think it's meant to be. It's very sweet and appealing. It's like one of those fragrances that said, hey, I'm a nice guy. I smell really sweet and interesting. It's kind of a vanilla Coke vibe. You've got the alcohol note in this. It's called a liquor note. And then you've got myrrh, like a little bit of a dark resinous, but with a lot of vanilla. So it's Overall, the feeling is vanilla Coke. It's very pleasant, and I think that would bring people to you. It's also very loud and had great performance. A lot of people say it's just for kids. I don't agree. Whether you're 15 or 50, you know, most people's personalities don't change that much. If you're a friendly people person, you know, when you're 15, you're probably going, or 18 or 20 or whatever, you're going to the club, seeing a lot of people. And when you're 50, you're going to the pub, but you're still around a lot of people. So I like this for people of all ages, just friendly, happy, happy-go-lucky kind of person. I will always believe that black pepper and Broxton and bergamot is a perfect combination for attracting women, but not everybody's the same. That's sort of for the sort of average guy. But when it comes to the sort of ladies' man, the smooth operator type, they tend to be very subtle. And I work with a few of them because I work with a lot of women, so you see them around. But I think what would work really well is this. This is La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique, and I'm going with Bleu Electrique because of the performance issues. The original La Nuit, you could use it. It's probably even more subtle because you can hardly smell it at times. But no, I'm going to go with Bleu Electrique because if you're a ladies' man, if you're a seducer type, even if maybe you're just a sensitive guy, this is not an in-your-face fragrance, even with the increased power of Bleu Electrique. It is very subtle. And yeah, it's kind of under the radar. Yeah, it's just a subtle masterpiece. Okay, completely different direction now. Completely different direction. If you're a guy's guy, unapologetic, you want to be a guy's guy, you know, you're masculine, that's all I want to be. I don't want to play any games. This is the fragrance, I think, which is really good. Gucci Guilty Absolute. And this fragrance is so good that I have a bottle on the way. I couldn't resist. I just love this so much. I actually think this one is a little medicinal, but in an amazing way. But it's heavy woods. It's cypress, generic woody notes, vetiver, so a lot of woods, and then just heavy amounts of leather. Super masculine, but very, very pleasant. Okay, so let's say you're like the office guy. You know, you're reliable. You go to work all the time. You bring home the bacon. Anyone with an office type personality, we're going with Prada Amber Pour Homme or Prada Amber Pour Homme Intense. But let's just put it this way. I'm going to go with the Intense version just out of versatility. I really like this too, but it is a little bit safe, a little bit too officey. They're both mixtures of saffron and myrrh. They push one of those notes forward. This one is more the saffron, that very clean, bright saffron, more officey. This one is the myrrh forward one, and I think that darkness gives you a little bit more mystery, intrigue that people would like to use in different situations. And finally, if you're an oud guy, if you're from the Middle East or India, or if you just like oud, I think oud is really expensive. I don't know of any cheapie that's oud-based fragrance. Even synthetic oud must be expensive. So I'm going to go with a designer oud instead of a niche one, because price can get really high. For me, the best, most authentic oud experience is this. It's Boss Bottled Oud Saffron. Now look, I love Oud Noir. I really do. But that's kind of a beginner oud. Usually people will start with that and they really like it and then they move on from there. That's more of not really an oud fragrance, just an overall great fragrance. If you really like oud, I think this one's better. And I definitely think this is better than the original Boss Bottle oud. This is definitely more, it's richer. It's $15 more, but it's like $30 more in terms of quality. Hopefully I've addressed something that can relate to you. I do think having a signature is important, and hopefully one of these sort of, made you start thinking about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.